What are some smaller technology companies with big growth potential? We're going to tell you about 7 stocks in tech and defense, many of which that are leveraging AI that our expert investor thinks could continue to climb. So let's get started. This is Ticker Take.
John, we talk a lot about big tech companies, but today we're focused on smaller names.
Yeah, Caroline, that's right. We caught up with investor Bruce Campbell, and he likes growth companies. He likes tech stocks. He's been an investor in names like Nvidia and Palantir. But of course, we've talked a lot about those companies on Ticker Take already. And a lot of people are trying to figure out what's the next Nvidia or the next Palantir. Well, Bruce is doing the same thing, and he's looking at it through the lens of small and medium cap companies.
Yeah, and he's focused specifically on the tech sector because he's a growth investor, and that's where you're going to find a lot of growth. Let's hear from Bruce.
All big companies start off as small companies. So you roll back to when ChatGPT was launched and Nvidia was less than 500 billion market cap. Today it's 5 trillion. So even it was a small company. You go back 10 years, it was a small company. So if you could find those small companies, oh my gosh, the opportunity is huge. The minefield of dead companies is enormous. So I mean, that's the one downside to the area. And if you're watching what you're doing and you have a process, it can really be great to invest in this area.
Now, for a stock to get Bruce's attention, a couple things have to be happening. The company has to have both revenue acceleration and profit or earnings acceleration.
Yeah, and as for the kinds of percentage growth he's looking for, we asked him about that too.
When we look at revenue and earnings growth, we talk about accelerated earnings growth. So we don't want to see linear where it's like, 5% this year and 5% next year. We want to see like where it's 15% this year and 20% next year and 25% the following year. That's really hard to do. But these companies, if you can find them, they're the next Nvidia. And that's what Nvidia has done. And then you take a look and say, where's the growth rate versus where's the multiple? So everyone can point to Nvidia and say, oh my gosh, the multiple's so high. Or they can point to Netflix and say, oh my gosh, the multiple was so high. And now they've grown into that because they've had such accelerated growth. And that's what we're looking for.
Okay, with all that said, let's get to Bruce's picks. But first, this is not financial advice. Stock number 1, Abaxx Technologies.
Definitely a smaller cap company. Doesn't get a lot of analyst coverage, but increasingly is getting noticed, particularly in the world of trading as a fast-growing fintech. Here's more from Bruce.
So this is a really fascinating company because there's nobody that's done this in a number of years. But if you look at trading, LNG, as for an example, doesn't have a standardized contract to trade the futures. And Abaxx actually went out, built their own exchange for commodities and for settlement. And then they've added on top of that these different contracts. So they've started off with LNG, carbon, and some European/Asian gold. They also have a digital technology that allows for the standardization of contracts and the settlement and the proof of ownership of those contracts. It's really interesting. Just got launched by Cantor Fitzgerald, and they're referring to the management team as the Avengers of Management Team. So that's a really interesting one. And it's one that, I don't suspect is going to stay around forever because somebody like CBOE or TMX Group is going to just come and buy them out.
Stock number 2, Kraken Robotics.
Also a small company, although one that gets a little bit more analyst coverage, but it's at a hot intersection between technology and defense. And since a lot of investors are interested in some of the private companies like Anduril, this is one opportunity in the public markets that's getting attention. Again, here's Bruce.
Kraken's in the defense sector. And I mean, if you look at where they are for like a peer, the one that often is used because it's almost like a proxy to get into Anduril because it's still a private company, but that's where Kraken gets compared to a lot. And they're a big supplier to Anduril on their Ghost Shark, which is the drones for underwater usage. And I mean, this company's just been like, we talk about accelerated revenue growth. And I mean, they are seeing that full fledged here. And that just keeps going out because there's so much more attention now defense-wise on sea and what's underneath the sea. And so that's where the opportunity lies.
Stock number 3, Kratos Defense and Security Solutions.
Well, Kratos has been a pretty hot stock. When you look at the market cap, I'm not sure we would necessarily look at this as a small company at this point. But again, a lot of interest in the defense area, and in particular this company. We get a lot of questions about it. Here's Bruce on Kratos.
I mean, we talked about Kraken as far as underwater. Well, Kratos is like above the earth, right? So they do all kinds of different drones and drone technology for above. And I mean, we know that continues to evolve, both from a perspective of trying to make the drones, more usable, smaller, cheaper. And they have a ton of technology for that, where they actually can produce a squadron of fighters that fly all together, as opposed to having people in them. Or you can have, somebody that's flying one of the planes and he's got a whole, bunch of wingmen who are drones that fly with them. And again, the revenue acceleration has been massive, and so is the earnings. And I mean, there's still a huge opportunity here because we're just getting into that, area with drones.
Stock number 4, MDA Space.
Well, this had definitely been a hot stock, although it's had volatility more recently, some concerns about growing competition with SpaceX, but the selling pressure may have created an opportunity. Here's Bruce's perspective on that.
MDA Space is super topical right now because of the fact that they had a contract that got pulled away from them when the company basically sold its spectrum and went into a different area. And now it looks like that's going to be happening with a second company. And so great company, amazing management, tons of runway. And it's an opportunity now for investors to buy it cheap. And I mean, there are the industry leader as far as satellite components and satellites and constellations. And we know that that price just keeps coming down, down, down as far as what it costs to put a satellite in space. The cheaper that gets, the bigger the market gets. So as this continues to come down, there's going to be more and more people that put satellites into space.
Stock number 5, Rocket Doctor AI.
Well, this is definitely a small cap name. You're going to be hard pressed to find a lot of analysts who cover the company, but it's an interesting business, which some might describe as a teledoc with an AI slant. Let's get some perspective from Bruce.
Yeah. So when we talk about the AI theme, that's where these guys fit in. And everybody thinks about, the sort of telematic doctor's office visits, and they sort of think like, oh, okay, yeah, done that, been there. That was COVID. Well, these guys are the Shopify of doctor's office visits. So where somebody like Teladocs has all of their doctors join their company, this is different. It allows that doctor to be that independent contractor and go out and then offer their services. The difference is like if you go on Teladocs, you're not going to get the same doctor 2 times in a row. With Rocket Doctor AI, you can actually request the same doctor and have a relationship with that doctor. That's part number 1. The second part is they have this global medical library, which is, think about it, it's like ChatGPT, but it's like an enclosed system where they built this library. It took them 8 years to build it. And this library has, all the different medical diagnosis and treatments and symptoms that are out there. Then when they put that medical system through the doctor's tests, it scored really, really well. What this will do is this will actually help to speed up times for doctors. So they'll run somebody through an AI ahead of time, which will do the triage. So it then sends them in the right direction and cuts out on the time. Big insurance companies down in the US, so like Aetna and United Health, Medicare, Medicaid, they're all signing on to this because of that cost savings, and it's all because of AI.
Stock number 6, TTM Technologies.
Okay, not too much analyst coverage, but the analysts who do cover this company like it, and so does Bruce. Now, this is the largest circuit board manufacturer in North America. Circuit boards are used in all electronics, so if there's more demand for technology, there's more demand for their product. And we've been talking about defense. Their products are useful there. They're useful in the space business as well. And what Bruce likes is that they've had top-line growth in the teens, and they've been converting that into earnings growth between 20 and 30%.
And stock number 7, Zedcor.
Definitely a smaller company, but one that has pretty bullish support from analysts who do watch the company. They're in security, the security area, and they do have an AI slant. Let's hear again from Bruce Campbell.
This company is taking what would you typically think of old technology, but bringing AI into it and making it new technology. So if you think about surveillance around a specific job site, location, something like that, they build these towers that can go up there, like 40 feet up in the air. The beauty and the real chemistry here is the fact that they're monitored from a central monitoring station by AI. And so that makes it super efficient. So if a company has 20 job sites, they have an operator sitting in the showroom or in the control room, watching exactly to see what's going on. They get notified of something, they can then alert it. And what they're finding is that these things are actually huge deterrents for crime. So they're putting these outside of like a Home Depot's or a Lowe's or a Walmart. And now people go, oh, hey, like AI is watching me. I can't just like walk in, steal something and walk out because they're going to see who I am. And so Zedcor's business has been just rocketing up, and the expansion just continues to get better and better as far as the geographic reach that they have, and also the manufacturing. And the management team's done a fantastic job with all the talks of tariffs and steel and all that. They pre-bought a bunch of goods so that cap their prices so that they're just that much more efficient.
All right, that's our list of smaller tech companies with big growth potential. Our thanks to Bruce Campbell. If you want to learn more about him, we'll put information in the description below.
Where you can also find all sorts of other ways to connect with Ticker Take, whether it's our newsletter, our podcast, and of course, if you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss our next investing video. See you next time.